Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to this Zeald webinar, the 13th in our Keep Calm and Get Digital series. My name is Jarrett and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. So today is our last day under level 3 and some very important questions have been answered this week, like when am I going to be able to get a haircut? And so barbers and hairdressers are about to be overrun, and so that's a pretty good thing for them and a good thing for us who need our haircut. Now, while stores are going to be able to open, we predict that e-commerce is going to play a massive role in the coming months and weeks as customers still want to keep contact to an absolute minimum. This just reinforces why it's so important to have a well-performing e-commerce website. So conversion rate is a critical metric for e-commerce sites. The higher the conversion rate, the more sales that you get per website visitor. And so today's session is designed to give you insight into how you can improve conversion rate on your website. We have a fantastic speaker today, Zeald digital business strategist, Tom Griffith. It's a pleasure to have you today with us, mate. Tom works directly with many Kiwi businesses, helping them get the best results possible online. And so his thoughts on this topic will be invaluable. Usual bit of housekeeping. If you haven't joined us on one of these webinars before, feel free to post questions at any point during the session. You can do that through the little Q&A module here within your Zoom controls. Post those through at any point and we will try and answer those questions as we go through the presentation. May interrupt Tom and raise them at the time if they're appropriate. If not, we will leave those through to the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. And so, yes, so you can also ask questions there to your heart's content. We hope that you enjoyed today's session, and I'd now like to invite Tom to join us and share his screen, and so that he can start taking us through this presentation. Cool.
All right.
Oh,
yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Sorry about that. A bit of a pause there. Well, welcome everyone. As you can see, Jarrett, and everyone else, I'm really looking forward to a haircut. I feel a bit like a Wookiee from Star Wars at the moment. But we have before, as you said, a really, really important topic. I mean, this is one of the areas where I feel that a lot of businesses, especially in New Zealand, just don't seem to understand this critical factor, that it's not about people to the site, but it's actually about conversion. Conversion is the key. So, let's look at this. Let's look at it in some detail and consider what we need to do. So today we're going to be covering some really specific areas, something called crafting the path to purchase. That's really important. That is key, as we'll find out. We'll be looking at something called consideration sets, specifically around products and how we get people considering your products. Advanced filtering, that's a part of that, obviously. Upsell and cross-sells. And finally, we're going to be looking at Google Analytics. And of course, I'll have an expert tip for you right at the very end. So let's crack on into crafting a path to purchase. So what is a path to purchase? Well, this is the art of taking a potential customer from either Google search or Google display or a social platform and persuading them to buy from you. So once we have our potential customer on our website, we need to really engage them quickly. We need to grab their attention. And we do this with things like strong visuals. We're telling them of the benefit or, and more importantly, adding perceived value of your product. But I'm going to go a bit more into that a bit later. But that's really the first step that we need to consider there. So when we're thinking of what do we need to do here, we've got their attention. What tools do we need on that website so that they can then find the product they're looking for? And perhaps you've got someone there that knows precisely what they're looking for. Maybe they have a vague idea of what they want and they've come to your website because they've been attracted through your marketing, and they want a product that's going to form a specific function, but they don't know really what's on offer yet. And they want to have a shop around on your website. So how do we get them into that consideration set? So once they're able to find a set of products or a product they're looking for, we need to then compel them to be able to buy this product. And we do this, once we've got them to a product page, we do this by having things like high quality imagery. It's really important. Low quality imagery on your site will really run down the feel of your website. Descriptions that sell the product are really important as well. You don't want to just tell them about the product, that it's got X number of this and Y number of that. But what would someone ask you, and what would you say to them if they came into the shop, if you have a physical shop, how would you answer them? What would you say to actually, enthusiastically sell them this product? And that's what we need to have here on the product page. Online is a bit different from buying in person, as you know, because in person, people ask you lots of questions. So we need to front foot that, and we need to have things like good frequently asked questions actually on the product page that are product specific, especially if you have a technical product. That's really going to help and assist that decision-making process. And the other thing that you can probably think about is having a chat facility that's going to answer questions in real time, if you have the ability and time to be able to run that.
That's a really good point, Doc. Excuse me, sorry. I'm actually getting some really amazing feedback from a few clients at the moment around how important live chat has been for them over the last few weeks, and how it's allowed them to connect and answer questions that people have, and allow them to kind of get past their barriers and buy on an e-commerce site. And so it's a great point. If you can't answer all the questions on the product page, but you can do it potentially through a live chat, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. That's why, in the past, people have felt comfortable buying a product in store, because they can ask the questions that come to mind as you're talking it through with them. And that's been sort of a barrier to conversion. But we've been forced in a way through what's happened with COVID-19 to actually take the plunge and make these purchases online, rather than sort of relying on going into store, which we can't do anymore. But if we can lower this barrier to conversion by having our FAQs and our chat facilities on page, we're lowering that barrier to conversion, and people are going to feel more comfortable with adding that product to cart and moving through the cart and checking out. So it's really vital to make the product easy to order. That's sort of a really good segue into that. And it has to be easy to order on any device. I actually looked at some stats of a client just the other day and found that 2/3 of their sales were on a mobile device. So that's really switched around. It's really high. So they need to be able to add to cart. They need to be able to complete forms with things like address finder functions that we talked about a few weeks ago. And these autofill areas, that fill fields in, fill easy on a mobile device. And having things like multiple options at checkout that lower the barrier to conversion, such as, you've got your credit card payment gateway, and perhaps you've got your direct credit payment gateway, and perhaps you've got something like a lay-by or an OxyPay or a part pay system in that checkout as well. So it really makes it affordable for people. And also another one is, think about affordable shipping or free shipping. A lot of sales drop at that point because people just don't consider the shipping, and they max out what they want to spend and just leave it in the cart. So the shorter this process of product discovery is, and getting them through the checkout, simply the equation is the more you'll sell. Hopefully that all makes sense there. As we see here just on the screen, once defined the path to purchase, the path to purchase needs to be optimized, made as short as possible, and that's really key.
I think there was one point you touched on there that was really, really key here, Tom, and that was just around adding systems like an OxyPay or a lay-by or an afterpay. Those sort of systems have proven to be very, very good at improving conversion rate, because they allow people to split up payments as well. They're considered to be microfinance payment gateways, and so those are really powerful. So I'm glad you kind of touched on that. It's a good thing to add to a site to improve conversion rate.
Yeah, especially today as well, with a lot of people who maybe don't have as much money, but they still need the product. And so allowing them to split that payment over various, whatever week period that is, that whatever facility you've chosen allows, that again lowers that barrier to conversion. It makes it easier for people to buy. And that's what we need to consider, is how can we make it easy for someone to do business with you? So hopefully that helps. So the next thing we need to think about here is our path to purchase funnel. That is, how do we get people to your site? Now, this is a critical thing, because a lot of people will set up a website and they won't consider the fact that they need to then advertise their website. Setting up a website, not advertising, it's like setting up a shop in the middle of the Sahara Desert. No one's going to come. So we really need to make sure that we have considered our path to purchase funnel. How do we get people to your site? So as we look, it's a very old, well-known funnel here through the marketing circles anyway. And we have the top of the funnel. And when you consider people's awareness of you and your product, what we want to do is really bring them in the top of this funnel. We need to bring awareness to these people. We need to consider interest. We need to generate interest and consideration, and out of that will flow intent, evaluation, and purchase. So how do we do that? How do we get people to your website? Well, some people may not know that your product exists. Therefore, how could they buy it? So looking at this top of the funnel, we need to garner interest and consideration through stimulative campaigns. And this can be done through these channels of, say, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and you call that perhaps social. And then Google Display, and you may know this as perhaps banner ads. And that's what really brings awareness, and it gives a message that it widens, I guess that's why it's wide at the top, it widens the net of the potential people who can do business with you. And that's really important to be able to generate and garner this awareness, interest, and consideration. Then we get to sort of the bottom of the funnel. And this is where we really find that this is the low-hanging fruit, as it were.
And that's actually one way to get a boost in conversion rate straight away, right? Is to go for the low-hanging fruit, to look at people that are actually searching for your products and services, right?
Oh, absolutely is. Yeah, getting people who are looking for them right there and then is critical. It's mission critical, really, and that's really, as I say in my phrases, you know, it's digital marketing 101 is looking after that bottom of the funnel. You know, Google search is at the bottom of the funnel. The shopping ads is at the bottom of the funnel, and of course, search engine optimization, so critical and often overlooked, is so critical. Because that when people are searching, when people are putting in keywords into Google search, there's intent behind that search. They are looking for something specific to buy at that moment. What we are now in marketing, we call a micro moment. That is that time when they pick up their phone and they type in some keywords into Google and they want to find a product that the product specific that they're looking for at that point in time. And being found in that moment is critical to the success of your website. And as Jared said, it's that ripe, ready to harvest fruit that's ready to fall now. So Google Ads is a pay-per-click system, and it allows you to run various ad themes for differing keyword groups. So you may have various products, various different reasons or keywords or different ways that people would search for your product. So we theme them into ad groups so that what they read is relevant to the keyword search. And hopefully that makes sense. That would then from there, they would find that, read it, it'll be attractive to them, they'll click on that, and it'll lead them to your homepage. Google Shopping is slightly different. Now, what that does is it places an image, a description, a price, and it places that little box right at the top of Google search. So when someone searches for a specific product, an array of different options are there right in front of them. So what we want to do is grab again their attention at that time. It's very product specific, make it attractive, price, description, and image attractive, so that it will bring them then directly through to your product page. It doesn't go through to the home page, but to your product page.
Awesome, Tom. And so what you're saying is that if we're running something along Google Shopping, we're actually talking to people right down in that evaluation stage. They're actually maybe already decided what product they want. They're just going to pick who they're going to buy it from. Yeah. And so you've got to be part of that conversation, right?
That's exactly it. They are literally ready to buy something right now. They have their wallet out. They're standing at the counter, so to speak, and they're saying, "How do I pay?" We just need to find those people at that time, that micro moment, and get them to pay. Cool. So the next part is good search engine optimization. Now, organic listings are the listings that are below usually Google My Business, and are found in between perhaps a few ads at the bottom. So that's what we call organic listings. That's perhaps what you call the standard listings on your website. It takes a long time to optimize for that, and especially if you just started out with a website, or if you have a poor search engine ranking, doing some work on that through search engine optimization is critical. It's a bit like if you consider the difference of freehold land, or freehold, owning your house freehold, or renting a property, perhaps is a better description. So good search engine ranking having a very high placing on page 1 of Google, and at the top of those organic listings especially. That is like your freehold land. It does cost a lot to get there, but once you get there and you've got that, you just need to maintain it, just like maintaining your house property. Google Ads and Google Google Search. And, sorry, that was my phone. I said Google and it fired up.
Was your phone started recognizing you saying Google?
It was indeed. It's so annoying.
It's pretty funny.
So having a Google ad or something, that's like your rental property. You've got it while you pay for it. And so there's your difference. Having good search engine optimization is powerful. It takes a long time to get there. And that can be obviously a little costly in doing so, but once you're there, it's quite powerful. Neglecting to ensure that you are able to be found high up in Google, though, will result in low sales or potentially no sales. But conversely, on the other hand, being found at the right time by the right customer will result in sales. It is that simple. So moving on. As with anything, first impressions count. So we need to grab attention, and we need to do so really quickly. So once we've acquired a potential customer out of Google search or wherever it may be, through Google Ads, we then need to grab their attention. And to do this, we do so with, as I said before, really strong visuals that appeal to the compelling need of why people are coming to the site. For instance, if you're selling, say, scuba diving equipment, seeing someone below the waves with the bubbles rising, that's really going to grab their attention, and it's going to hold them on the page. And that's what we really need to do. It's appealing to the reason they've come to the website. Then we need to sell them or tell them of the benefit. Why should they buy from you? Or we need to give a clear indication of the perceived value of your product. I say perceived because they haven't realized it yet. You're telling them of it. So the perceived value of the product. And we do this with really strong benefit-based headlines. And we need to tell them of this immediately, this immediate value that your product has to them. And that then engages them further and encourages further interest, rather than perhaps them bouncing off to a competitor website, which would be terrible. So as we can see in the description here with Netflix, we've got a very catchy, it really does pull you in terms of the visuals are very nice and clean. Yes, I'm after entertainment, I'm after movies. That's the image behind it, but it says unlimited movies, TV shows, and more. Watch anywhere, cancel anytime. Okay, that's really great. That's awesome, because that's a really low barrier to conversion. And the next, what we need is we need a way in which to call someone, or the potential buyer, to action. Now, a call to action must be the most prominent aspect on the homepage. And we see this in the Netflix example here. You have try it now, and you have sign in. These are the two most prominent areas of the page, and they're in the brightest red color that they could probably find. So you can't miss it. And it does obviously tie in with their Netflix logo as well, which is always a good idea. And so having these in such a dominant color and in a dominant position means that they know precisely what you want them to do. So the next tip I've got for you is we need to give people a reason to respond, and we need to make it clear. Again, Netflix gives them a reason to respond. It says watch anywhere, cancel anytime. So again, that barrier to conversion is really low. And there's no lock-in period, which means that you can go ahead, you can try it now, and if you're unhappy in a month or 60 days, it really doesn't matter. You can cancel anytime. And it's really clear of how they go about doing it. There it is, right there. So just to recap, we grab their attention with really well thought through benefit-based headlines and a strong value proposition and a call to action that is nice and dominant on the page. And we want to give people a reason to respond and make sure that it's clear how they can do so. Right.
I always like to do just a little tip for people as well at this point. Like, so if you're looking at this presentation and you're wondering how this relates to your own site, often going to your homepage and then pretending to be a first-time visitor and seeing if the action that you want them to take is the most obvious thing on the page. And if it's not, then it's obviously not going to be clear to your potential customers. And so enhancing that can have a really big impact on conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we go through and look at sites, when we do, say, a website audit or something like that, usually I think one of the biggest failings that we find is that there is no value proposition, there's no benefit-based headlines. The call to action is way down the bottom of the page, or it's not there at all.
Yeah.
And the structure's all wrong, and they wonder why they're not making sales. So
It
this
can be
is
as simple as shop now, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but you do need to tell people what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Well, consideration sets. Speed. Speed is the key. We need to take the intent of the purchase and turn it into a purchase. And we do this by getting them to narrow down their choice of products to, say, 2 or 3 products, and then allow them to easily assess and make a choice on the products that they have narrowed down to. And we can do this through something like a favorites function. It's perfect for this sort of thing. So it's critical that when people find what they want, that they can find the product they want quickly. And we can use tools such as search tools and filtering. And even it's really important to have really clear categorization of products that allow the start of that selection process from the homepage. This then should be supported with easy to use filters. And say easy to use, should be really nice and simple to use, nice and clean layout, really clear, that allow the user to make a purchasing decision about the type of product that they're looking for. And then that narrows things down to a really short list. So let's consider the search function. Let's look at that.
So one small thing on that, Tom, I thought it might be quite helpful to do a bit of an example. So often good to have what we call a thin layer of categories. And so let's say I was going to go and buy some clothes. So you'd go along to a men's clothing. I would go along to a men's clothing store, or shop. The first thing I'd want to do is search for men's clothing and maybe tops and go into that category. And then I'd have some filters that might say, look, do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? Do you want a jersey? Do you want a jacket? And filters around color maybe and material, and then very quickly I can end up by making a couple of simple selections. All of a sudden I'm looking at the items that are directly related to my desire to purchase, and I've got a consideration set. So that's just an example of how you can use categories and then maybe some filters as well. But I'll let you talk about search and filter.
That's cool. No, we do look at that after search. We'll get into an example of some good filters and things like that, which will just exactly. You've said exactly what I'm going to say on the next slide, so that's great.
Sorry, mate.
No, it's all good. So it's good that we're both thinking the same thing. Search function, very, very important. If you don't have a search function on your website, well, I suggest that one of the first things you do after this is you go and add one today. It is a must. A search function is critical, as it's the fastest way to find a product if you know what you want. And many people come to a website knowing precisely what they want, and they just want to find it quickly and check out. And using a search function, they can search on things like brand and usage, such as, say, they're coming to look for a rubbish bin. They can type in rubbish bin, and then they'll have all the options on rubbish bins. Or it could be by SKU, or by product number, or by perhaps a simple attribute like color. It could be red, whatever, if they want to find something that's red. Hard to use search functions, though. They do aggravate people, especially when little or no results return. So you do need to ensure that it is intuitive and easy to use, and they display a good range of results. Having a dynamic search is one that displays images and titles of the product that are resulting from their search in real time, and they're really good to use because it is as you go results that comes through. As you type, results come through, and that's really good for people to be able to consider that. So advanced filtering, this is so critical. So many websites, they don't have any filtering, and they have hundreds, sometimes thousands, tens of thousands of products. Filtering is key. So once a customer has decided on perhaps a category that they're interested in the case of King Seeds here, as you can see, here we're in the category of flowers, as you can see. And so now we're in our flowers category, we can look at and consider down some of the considerations of the product that we want to narrow down further. And we narrow down by using attributes of the product. Now, these attributes could be either a simple attribute or a unique attribute. And there's another way of filtering that's called tagging as well. And we'll touch on that briefly. But offering a range of attributes and attribute options allows the client to, like I said, specifically narrow down to only perhaps a handful, maybe 1, 2, or 3 choices, maybe a few more. But then they can add that directly to their favorites list, their consideration set, so that they can make a choice. Simple attribute filtering takes simple attributes like color or size, not brand, which is often thought of as a simple attribute, but it's not. And allows the selection through these choices. For instance, if you're selling bed linen, you may want to show filtering by king, queen, or single, or by white, cream, and beige. So someone can then go through and select a king bedspread, that's cream. And that's okay. It works well if you've got a product range that allows for that simple attribute filtering. But where you've got a more technical product, or if there's more considerations that are needed, then perhaps a more advanced filtering option, such as filtering by unique attribute, is needed. And that's where we really want to hone down on specifics. For instance, if you're buying a wheel, you may need to know the diameter or the load capacity, or perhaps you want to buy it by brand or by material or wheel diameter or width. All these things are considerations for you in making that purchase. So in order to know what the filtering options to set up are, you need to consider these things. Just bring down the page here. Filters need to consider and reflect consumers' buying criteria. I want to say that again because this is vitally important. Filters need to consider and reflect consumers' buying criteria. That is, what aspects of the product will determine whether or not the item is the item that the buyer wants. Hopefully I've said that and that's clear because it's so critical.
It's a great point, Tom. And I think that's what King Seeds does so well. They've got like the garden location where you're going to plant the flower, you know, what time of year you want to plant it, these sort of things. They're all, in fact, King Seeds, if you ever want to go and check out filtering done quite well, go along to that website. They've got so many different things you can filter by, and it's all based on their knowledge of what's important to gardeners and growers, so that they can find the right seed for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, it's got to be, you know, thinking about what does someone need to do in order to, or understand about the product in order to be able to buy it. So we talked about filtering by tagging. It's very similar to filtering by unique attribute. However, with tagging, you're adding elements of the product to it by tags, which means that sometimes there can be a crossover in category, and it allows a lot more flexibility in the way in which results show. And sometimes it does end up with displaying more options. So it just needs to be considered which tagging, which filtering is best for you and your product set and the website. Upsells and cross-sells, often confused. What's the difference between a cross-sell and an upsell? Well, there's an easy way to remember it. So we'll start with cross-sells because they're an effective way to add more to the cart than what the customer had originally intended in buying. And that's by advising them of associated products that they may also need. For example, if you sell sewing machines, you may want to offer to them a multicolored thread kit or a needle kit or perhaps a maintenance kit. All these items may be needed for the operation of the machine and are sound suggestions. It's the would you like fries with that sort of approach. An upsell is an increase in the dollar value of a sale. If you've ever been to a fast food joint like McDonald's, especially when we went back to level 3, there was a flood of people went then. If you've been to McDonald's, so you've been upsold. It's the, would you like to upsize that from medium fries to large fries? So the best way to upsell someone is after they've made a purchasing decision. That is, when they are looking at their cart, they've already made their purchasing decision, they've added a product to cart, and they're about to check out. It is then when we suggest an attractively priced or desirable product that's only available in cart for purchase, and we ask them to add it to the cart as well. So asking for a little bit more at this stage, when a positive decision has already been made, is a well-known negotiation technique, and it is very effective at lifting that little dollar value. So just to highlight how important these functions are, a little bit of an example for you. We evaluated a client's analytics, and we found that the average sale was about $88. And given their turnover, we suggested that we aim to increase their average sale to $100. And given their turnover, which was quite high, that would result in an additional $180,000 worth of sales over the course of that next year, just by adding an additional $12. So it's not bad. Sorry, $22.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And really that was very achievable for them.
Mm-hmm.
So just to recap on the cross-sells and upsells, it's a really, really important thing that if we can upsell someone, we're increasing the dollar value of the product. Oops.
Yeah, and that brings up a really other important metric that you want to look at when you're managing an e-commerce site. Conversion rate is one thing which we spent a lot of time on today as well. But if you can influence your average order size, positive impact as well. So it's another metric that you want to be moving as much as you can to get the most out of your store.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And just a quick example, because I know we're probably running a bit short on time there. Talking to a client today. We've worked on lifting their average order size, and we've done so. And so they've reinvested that in spending more money on marketing, because it's a great time to be reinvesting in marketing and leveraging that at the moment. So Google Analytics. Well, I'll never forget when I first met Brent Kelly, one of the founding directors of Zeald. And he said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And it just stuck with me. That was during a conversation, just one of those phrases that it just resonates and sticks in your mind. It's so obvious, but it's just so overlooked. If you don't have Google Analytics on your website, you need to get it. You need to put it in. It's free and it's simple to install. But perhaps have a professional, consider having a professional set it up fully for you. Having it installed will get basic metrics coming through, but having it fully set up for you will help you understand your conversion data, and it's really important to understand that. So to know what your data is, what's happening on site, is really important, because it gives you information on how you can make more sales. And as I gave in that last example, the client was able to, because of knowledge, know that they could, by increasing their revenue, they could understand where the change was needed to be applied to make more money. Just to know basic numbers like how many visitors you're getting to each site a week, how many are buying, obviously very important. Having high traffic doesn't mean as much when you're talking about e-commerce store. Like I said right at the start, conversion's the key. You could be getting 100 people through, but if 50% of them are buying, which would be uncommon to have that higher sort of conversion rate, but you get my point, then that's great. But if you're getting 10,000 people through and only 50 people are buying, well, it's not so good. So conversion, if your conversion is good, we can look about making things even better. So in talking about analytics, it's important to know such things as, what are your visitor numbers? What are the new customers or new visitors to your page, and who are returning? How many do you have that are returning? What is the conversion rate? That is, how many people are buying something from your website? What is the cart abandonment rate? That is when someone puts an item in the cart but doesn't check out. A high abandonment rate may point to issues at checkout, or perhaps they're getting unwanted surprises at checkout that have stalled the sale. That's a great indicator that we need to look at that area. Visitor attribution. That is, through what channels did you acquire your visitors, and at what level did they bounce, or what level are they converting? That tells us where we should be spending more of our money if we can leverage a good conversion point. Cost per acquisition is important. That is, how much did it cost to get you that visitor to your website? And one of the more important metrics is the return on ad spend. For every dollar you spend on digital marketing, what return did you get? And this will guide you in how you spend your budget, your marketing budget. So knowing your analytics is vitally important. So my expert tip for you today is make sure you understand the buying criteria or attributes for your key products, and ensure the path to purchase allows users to develop consideration sets based on these criteria.
That's excellent, Tom. And it's such a critical point, right? So it comes down to, why do people want to buy from you, and how do you make sure that they can actually get at the right information to be able to do so? Do you mind if I give you an example, actually? Because I went through a process a couple of months ago now, moved into a new house, and the first thing we did is we got there and we tried to put the fridge into the spot that we had in the house, all right? And it didn't fit, right? So I needed to buy a new fridge. Now, I would have thought that almost everyone wanting to buy a new fridge would have needed to kind of search or filter based on height and dimensions, because it's a pretty common thing to have to work out whether or not a fridge is going to fit in a gap that you have in a particular house. And I'll tell you what, I went through all of the leading retailers and not a single one of them had this right. I did Noel Leeming's, Harvey Norman, everywhere, just went through all of these appliance shops. And I'll tell you what, if one of them, just one of them, had given me the ability to filter by fridge height and fridge or fridge width as well, then they would have got my sale right then and there, because I had some very specific buying criteria, and but no one was able to fulfill that very accurately. And so I now am kind of quite aware of this, obviously being in the industry as well, and so help guide a lot of our clients and customers we work with on how to set up filters so that they can really meet that criteria and help get that sale, because there were a few people that missed out that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about understanding that buying criteria. Absolutely right. No, that's great.
Awesome. So we've got a few questions, and so what I'll do is I'll just stop share there, and so you touched on this early on in the piece. Just a reminder, people, if you'd like to send through any questions, do through the Q&A module. Open for questions at the moment. So I've got one here. You touched on responsive design or mobile friendly websites. How important is this for e-commerce?
Oh, it's incredibly important. The stats around that are, at the moment, that the device that someone chooses to start that purchasing journey on is the same device they want to complete it. And like I said, looking at the stats that I have recently, that has really swapped around from what was, say, a year ago to being around sort of a third of visitors to a website to being at least 2/3, even upwards of there. I think the stat is 71% of the time when someone starts the journey on a mobile device, they want to finish that process on that same device.
Right.
So it must be easy to consume, easy to purchase from a mobile device. But, think about how people fill out forms on a mobile phone. It can be clunky. It can be really hard if it isn't set up and configured properly. So yeah, it really does need to have nice little gadgets in there, such as, say, Address Finder, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that allows people to autofill address points and things like that. Yeah, critical.
That's great, thanks, Tom. Yeah, because it wasn't always like that. Often people would start on a mobile, want to finish on a desktop, but that's kind of gone now, eh? So people want it right there and there on that one device, and they're much more likely to actually purchase or complete the purchase on a mobile phone.
Absolutely.
So are some website platforms better than others for improving conversion?
I think, there's a lot of platforms out there that don't fulfill what we've talked about, and they don't make it easy for clients to be able to check out as they should. So getting the right platform for your business is critically important. And a lot of time it could be spent in that. I think that's one area where you need to reach out to a professional and ask for some help, because as they go through the discovery process of talking about your business and what you're selling, and they're discovering and looking at what functions you need on site, that's when we can determine what platform is best for what job. It's critically important to get that right at the start.
Yeah, I think possibly worth noting that we're also what we call at Zeald, what we call platform agnostic. So we work with as many different all the leading pieces of technology, and so we're not specifically tied to one or the other. And I think probably a good takeaway is that with the most updated versions of all the leading technology, they almost all have a bunch of tools that you can use to aid conversion. It's usually the older systems or maybe some of the more niche ones that don't support it.
Yeah.
So I've got a question just come through here. What is a good conversion rate? It's a great question.
That's a really good.
Probably should ask that one.
That's a really good point. And in some ways, which may not help, it's industry specific, product specific. So it's very hard to give a sort of general answer to that. But it could be that anything from 0.5% through to 3% is good. It's not going to be 50%. Not usually. If you do, well, congratulations. But I do have some of my clients are sitting around the 5 and 6% conversion rate. It really depends if you can really hone in on really good marketing at the start. So you're finding clients or customers who are interested at that time in your product, and the marketing is on point. Therefore, when they land on site, it is what they expected. You're more likely going to convert than not if they can find a product easily and simply, and it's what they want.
Oh, that's excellent. Thanks, Tom. And yeah, so I've got another one here from Nadine. I don't like our current website shop back-end system. It's not easy to manage and orders. Can you help me find a better solution? Oh yeah, sorry. So that's yes, we could probably help you with that. There's a lot of good systems out there, and most of the leading technology have some pretty good ordering systems, wouldn't you say, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more modern ones are a lot better than some of the ones even a couple of years old. Yeah.
No, they've got most of that technology's got pretty good in the space. Okay, so probably got time for just maybe one more question or two more questions. So if anyone wants to send anything through, please do so. I have got one here, which I think is probably good to have a look at. Tom, when you're looking at a site first and you're reviewing it and for its ability to convert, what do you look for first? What's the first thing you look for?
Yeah, well, as we said right at the beginning, it's about matching the expectation. So what I should say really is the marketing with what the business is trying to achieve. You've got to be able to set quickly the right tone. So when someone lands on the site, is there a benefit-based headline? What is the structure of the site? Is it nice? Is it tidy? Does it appeal to the compelling need? Does it answer questions quickly? Because when we come through to a website, it doesn't matter if we're buying a car or coffee, which you can do these days off a website, then people come with the same sort of questioning in mind. What's in it for me? And then they'll have a sort of a time where they'll go through a phase of consideration. So we need to be able to answer concerns and objections and then highlight benefits really quickly and build trust and credibility. So I look to see, is there perceived value? Is there a good clean structure, good navigation, and does it create a perceived value quickly?
That's good. Thank you, Tom. I've got one last question that's just come through from Dion. He said, Google Trends is suggesting that searches in my field are very low in New Zealand. Is this an issue?
Sorry, I missed that.
So Google Trends suggests searches in his field are very low in New Zealand. Would you see this as being an issue?
I'd need to know a little bit more, I think, before I could answer that. Perhaps one where we could get in touch and have a discussion. Just need to know about what is he selling,
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
really, that's right. It really does come down to what's the objective and what you're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah.
Maybe one generalized answer that might be helpful, Dion, is that if people are not actively searching for your product, then you're probably going to have to do a lot more
Yeah.
work around stimulative advertising to try and generate demand. It means
Yeah.
that you may not be able to operate right down in the bottom of the funnel with people that are actively searching for your product. You might need to kind of get out there, reach them, and educate them a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't see it as being an actual issue like for you, but just a different tactic that would be needed to try and be successful. But once again, because it comes down to what Tom was saying, it really, like, that's a very general answer, and it would really need some good, careful thought around what it is that you're trying to sell, and having a good strategy for it.
Yep. But definitely we can help. If Dion
Mhm.
wants to get in touch with us, we can
Yep,
definitely
absolutely.
help. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. And I'll just sneak in one more question here. I've got a question from Zahid, has said, what is your take on DIY website platforms like Wix, etc.? Do you have a thought on that one, or?
Yeah, I've got thoughts and I've got personal opinions as well. Generally, what I find with the likes of Wix and so on is that people use templated options. Templated options do not really take into consideration the structure that is needed for the specific product being sold. So again, it goes back to that. Yes, they've got lovely little tools and things like that, and they can be nice to use in the back end and things, but they can also be very slow to load because they're bloated with code. So it really does need to be taken as I would say a level entry product, whereby if you really just wanted to get started and test the waters and do so with a low barrier to convert to get started, then yeah, that may be an option. If that was the case, I think a better option would be one of our gem websites, because that would be a bit even better, and you've got a professional website content management system with a load of tools in the background ready to go. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, so there are a lot of options out there. Most of the service websites that you have out there, they are really just starter pieces of technology. So wherever possible, it's good to kind of get something that's going to be able to grow with you, so that as soon as you get to a certain size, you don't have to rebuild. And I think that's really critical when making a decision around the technology that you use. So yeah, like that's hopefully that helps answer that question for you. But a Wix is quite helpful, but I do feel it limits people down the track a little bit. So just going to wrap up a little bit now. Thank you very much for that detail and your thoughts, Tom. It was very much appreciated. A little bit of an overview. What we know, shops are poised to reopen tomorrow, but people are still going to want to limit their contact for safety reasons. So be prepared for a desire to transact online alongside some in-premise retail as well. The opportunity here is that an e-commerce website with optimized pathways, conversion pathways like we've talked about today, will give you a massive competitive advantage. It'll mean that people arriving on your site are able to easily find what they want based on their criteria and check out very, very quickly. So our prediction is that e-commerce is booming, but a big part of this rise is due to customers that are new to online shopping. Right, so they're going to need a simple product discovery and checkout process. There's a lot of new people to e-commerce. They're not going to want to have to find their way around. They're going to get very easily confused, or potentially easily confused. So you're going to want to make sure that it's a really simple process for them, and then you're going to be able to take advantage of this boom. So our recommendation is that if you do have an older e-commerce site, you should look to refresh it or update it, as a lot of the current systems or the current versions of e-commerce technology have some more advanced conversion tools that you can take advantage of. A little bit about Zeald. If you haven't heard about us before, we have been building websites and helping people transform digitally for over 20 years, and we've done this to 15,000 people as well. With the upheaval that COVID-19 has inflicted on New Zealand, we simply want to do our part and help as many Kiwi businesses as possible transform digitally so they can survive and perhaps thrive in this new world. Yesterday, we launched our Get E-commerce Movement version 2 or GEM version 2, and applications are now open once more for businesses to apply for a free e-commerce website setup. This offer also comes with 12 months free hosting, with the only charge being a 2% success fee. And so this is our way of trying to give back to the New Zealand business community. If you want to see if this initiative is right for you, please visit zeald.com. Also, if you'd like some expert advice on how to improve conversion or just make the right technology decisions for your business, we do offer a free strategy session with one of our digital business strategists, just like Tom. Please let us know if you would like this service in the feedback form that we'll be sending you a little bit later on today. We really do value your feedback, and some of the topics that we're looking to present in coming weeks based on the feedback that we've got from people as well. So if there is something you'd like us to cover, then please let us know in that feedback form as well. Our next webinar is Friday, May 15th, covering how to audit your own website and marketing and kind of really become, I suppose, a bit empowered in terms of how you can look after your own digital tools. A special thanks to our guest speaker today, Tom Griffith. It's a pleasure to have you with us. That is all the time we have for today, folks. If you know anyone that might benefit from attending these in the future, please feel free to share the registration link. I wish you a good day and good luck.